Well, it's a very good afternoon to you here from Cheltenham, Gloucestershire. It's good afternoon, not good morning, because we're doing this in the afternoon, not in the morning. Hope everybody's well. It's beautiful weather here, actually. We're having a fantastic few days or few weeks of brilliant weather, and why not? It's a great thing. Welcome to our live stream. I want to talk about some updates for you. Then I've got some cracking ideas for you. One on how to prospect for if you're in the later life market, and number two, how to sell using the garden centre metaphor, which I want to share with you a bit later, which is brand spanking new. So hope everybody is well, good, surviving, healthy, all those good things. Let's get cracking with what's been happening. So lots of changes, of course. Lockdown's been released slightly. We can now go out and have parties of 6 people. No more than 6 people in your garden as well, or in a park as well. Mortgage market's looking quite positive, actually, which is good news. Lots of new products coming in, lots of new ideas and new lending happening as well, which is good news all around. Furloughs extended, of course, into the autumn time, so people can keep their staff employed effectively until their industry increases again later in the year. Self-employed have been offered a bit more money to stop them from going under, which is great as well. So the government's doing what they can to keep things bubbling along, but that's costing them an absolute fortune. Some figures came through from The Economist last week that Britain borrowed £62 billion last month in April alone. 62 billion they borrowed. This is wartime spending. It's like buying aircraft carriers. And the £14 billion furlough scheme is costing more than the NHS. So huge amounts of money have been borrowed to pay for all of this. Therefore, the government's doing what they can to keep the economy floating. But retail are having a disastrous time. Of course, retail volumes fell by 18% in March. Figures for April are yet to come through. We know that. Only online sales have been operating during the lockdown period. So what's going to happen to the economy? Nobody knows. If you knew, you'd be a millionaire, wouldn't you? But it's more likely going to be what they call the Nike tick. You probably heard the phrase, a V-shaped recovery, where V is the plummeting GDP, and suddenly we grow again. Then there's the pessimists who reckon it's going to be more of a U-shape, a plummeting economy followed by a long lull way into 2021 and maybe a pickup later on as well. Sometimes people talk about the W as well, W recession, which is to do with the pandemic as well, because things start to get better and then we lock down again as we go back up again. Now, at the weekend, I read about the Nike tick, just do it, tick. If you draw the Nike tick, it does something like this, doesn't it? It does that. And that's more likely what's going to happen. You've got a plummeting GDP, of course, the last few months, and then a very slow build-up. I think that's more likely what's going to happen. That slow build-up will build up into 2021 onwards. So we won't see things back to as they were before, maybe until Q2 or so next year. Who knows? So that's the Nike tick there for you. Thought you might enjoy that one. Okay, let's wrap that out then and get on to our first topic today. Because what I want to talk about now is prospecting or marketing, personal marketing, call it what you like. I want to talk about how we can get leads in the elderly market, in the later life market, or the equity release market. Hi, let's take a look at the subject of equity release lead generation. How to get business, which is the key thing to everything in the day. Now, the other day I was talking to some guys who came along in one of my workshops. Let's give this a title, Equity Release, we're talking about here, or the later life market, lead generation is what we're talking about here. So let's put my title up there on the whiteboard for you to be able to see. Talking to IFA, and I was saying to him, how are you going to get these? He said, no problem. He said, I've got more than enough business I know what to do with. All my existing client base, I've got this practice that we've been operating for many years. They need advice. I've got more than enough business to be getting on with. Then I got talking to another guy who's taking his equity release exam. He's like, I've got no idea. I don't know where my business is going to come from, but I'll do my research when I get there. So I'm going to give you some ideas now, which will help you to get some business in the later life market. The first concept, really, which is more of a principle, is as an equity release expert, we should do more education than we do pitching. So we talk about lead generation, pitching for business, as it used to be called. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be doing more education of the marketplace to various people that you come across. If you get into that mindset of giving information, giving knowledge, educating people, it turns the way in which you start to prospect as well. So the first thing you'll be looking at, of course, a pen here, is your existing clients. So you want to be looking at your existing client base and see if you can get business from your existing client base. So if you're already an IFA, for example, you want to be going to have a look at your client base, your database, start doing some marketing to your existing clients as well. If you're already operating as an IFA, you want to be looking at cross-selling. If you've got a team of IFAs, you want to get them to think about cross-selling. In other words, how they can spot the need for an equity release conversation with somebody and then refer on to your equity release people or to yourself. So you definitely want to be looking at your existing clients. If you're a mortgage broker already or mortgage advisor, have a look at your database of clients to see who've got people that might well benefit from equity release advice and conversations as well. So that's the first thing. That's a bit obvious, really, isn't it, if you're in that marketplace. The big one for you are referrals. Referral partners, I should call this now. Referral partners. Now, we know about referrals. It's worth talking about them quickly. Obviously, getting referrals from existing clients for this kind of business. Yeah, I get that totally. But we're looking to get the business in the first place. So what kind of partners do you need? Now, the best place to find your partners are those businesses that are actively involved in the later life market. Now, the best thing to do is go to the Equity Release Council, become a member, by the way, of the Equity Release Council. Definitely join it. You should do anyway. And have a look at their member list, because you'd be amazed by how many non-mortgage brokers are members of the Equity Release Council. You have estate agents, you have solicitors, you have companies that deal with debt management as well. You have solicitors, lawyers, all sorts of different organisations are members of the Equity Release Council. And it's those organisations that you want to set up referral conduits or referral partnerships. So take, for example, estate agents. You should be going around your area looking for estate agents who are willing to refer to you customers that may have a need for later life advising. Obviously, they've got a lot of people buying and selling properties. I get that totally. But they might, for example, have a request to go and value a property. So the estate agent goes around to the property, which happens to be £1 million, red brick Edwardian house, and they get talking to the vendors. What are you looking to do? And they're elderly people, and they're looking maybe to downsize, possibly move to a cheaper area. And a good estate agent, of course, will ask a few questions as to why are you looking to do this. And it may well be that equity release might be a better option for that client. So that estate agent would then refer on to you, maybe get a little something for that benefit as well. So that's one referral partner. Solicitors are a great referral partner, aren't they? So the solicitor may have clients who are looking for wills or powers of attorney or something like that, looking at elderly clients, maybe a divorce situation where two people in their 50s, 60s, maybe getting divorced, looking to raise money to keep the property rather than selling the property, selling the family home. Later life lending is a solution there as well. You can be looking at all sorts of different areas. Domiciliary care services, in other words, those companies that provide medical care to keep people in the home rather than sending them to a care home. Again, they need money to pay for that. People may want to raise money on their property. That's no as well. Breakfast clubs, those sort of things, you might get referral partners from that as well. These sort of networking events that you get. So when you get these referrals, promise to educate the client. Don't say to the estate agent, look, if you find somebody who's valuing their property, if they're looking to downsize, put them over to me and I'll go and sell them an equity release product. That's not the way you do it. What you say is, put them onto me and I'll go and talk to that person about their options. You're looking to educate them rather than pitching for business. Real big difference, that one. The estate agent is more likely to refer. A solicitor might refer somebody if you're going to talk to the customer about talking about their options available to them. That's a far better way of doing it. So that's your referral partners. That's one example there for you. Another idea for you, which of course you've probably heard of before, is seminar selling or seminar holding, or call it what you like. I'll call it seminar selling. And this is where you put on a seminar and you invite people along to it. And in the seminar, you do a load of education. You teach people all about their options with equity release marketplace. So you get a lot of people in the room, put on your canapes, bit of lunch maybe if you've got a budget for it, bit of wine if it's the evening, just to loosen people down if you wish to. If it's online, you want to do this as well, look at the webinar, look at Zoom, do an online version. But here you're going to do a proper presentation about how the market works, what are the options, what are the benefits and disadvantages. Again, you're educating a lot of people. There's a lot of brokers, a lot of IFAs, a lot of later life advisors who do most of their business prospecting via seminars. You've got to get good at presenting, don't get me wrong. Talk to me, I'll help you with that topic, particularly if you're going to be doing it online as opposed to face as well. You've got to be having some good visuals, good PowerPoints, good stories, good presentation, call to action. It's got to be properly done, but that's seminar selling as an option for you. Old favourite, of course, of lots of people now, social media. Social media. Now, people think, well, I don't do Facebook, they say to me. How can I do? I don't do Instagram. My daughter does Instagram. I don't know where to start with Instagram. Not talking about that really. We're talking about social media where, yes, you're going to be posting what you do on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Of course you are. You're going to have your own pages. So on Facebook and Instagram, you'll want to have your work sort of pages and your personal pages. Now, you're thinking about your end customers. Which social media do your end customers use? That's the key. If your end customers are people in the later life market, consumers, then they're more likely to be on Facebook or Instagram. Actually, Facebook for the later life market is very, very popular. It's not that popular with young people, but then again, you don't want to be selling to young people, do you? They're definitely into Facebook. So make sure you've got your personal page and make sure you've got a business page on Facebook, where you post information, you post articles, you educate people on the options available in the equity release market. Now, once you've got that, you can then get your personal Facebook friends to refer you on or to connect other people to you. And you can certainly build up a big following on Facebook and other types of social media. Instagram's another one as well. I wouldn't worry too much about Twitter. I wouldn't worry about LinkedIn unless, of course, you're looking to get your referral partners understanding what you do. Then, of course, LinkedIn is key. You can also advertise on Facebook, and this is actually quite a key thing to think about doing. You can advertise on Facebook, and you can put your little banner on there. Pay a few pounds to get adverts put onto people's pages. Now, with Facebook advertising, you can get quite clever. You can really niche your area that you want to promote to. So, for example, I would pay for an advert that goes on to people's Facebook pages who are over the age of 65, who live in the Cheltenham area and have an average income of £50,000 or more, who may well live in the GL50 postcode. You can actually really be quite defined or niche with who your adverts go to. It's not like a mass billboard in the centre of town where everybody sees it. With Facebook advertising, you actually design your advert to go onto certain people's pages. Again, they'll go onto your business page, which will then educate them and you can connect with them that way. So definitely look at social media as a way forward as well. Don't think it's just for the kids, because it's not. Another thing you can do is you can go and buy some leads, bought leads. Now, bought leads, I know some advisors, some brokers who rely totally on bought leads. In other words, leads in which they purchase themselves from the internet. Cost you £85 up to sort of £200 for a good lead. Bought leads, of course, are bought by companies that generate aggregators that generate leads for you. They have websites, web presence. People go online, want more information, put their details in. You get a text through saying, contact this customer. They're interested in talking to you. Remember, when you make contact with people, it's about educating them on their options, not pitching for business. You do that a little bit later on. You're very careful how you sell in this area. It's about educating people on their options, looking at their options and helping them to make a decision. That's how you sell nowadays. You help people to buy rather than you do the selling. That's really, really quite important, that one as well. Traditional stuff now, some old school methods for you. Leads. Get yourself some leads, as we used to call them. There's nothing wrong with using a bit of old school stuff here. So, for example, wedding fairs. There's not many weddings going on at the moment with lockdown, but when wedding fairs are quite popular, it means a lot of weddings are occurring. These are when hotels hire out a great big room. Everybody rocks up with their pictures and their banners, and they sell their wedding cake business and their photography business. There's nothing to stop you going to a wedding fair, because guess who else goes along to weddings? Obviously the bride and the groom go, of course they do, but they usually bring their parents along as well, who may well be elderly, who might be worrying about funding this. So suddenly you're there providing an option where they could fund the wedding via equity release. So I think that's a great way of getting some leads. But of course it's costly, you have to book your pitch, get good at negotiating, networking with people and socialising as well. Don't forget golf clubs, of course. Tend to have elderly people in there, retired people. You might not get some leaflets dropped around, do some door-to-door, get some leaflets produced. Make sure obviously they're compliant, your network approves them. A lot of the providers, some insurance companies actually give you these leaflet templates. Just get the young lads, young girls to drop them off into people's door boxes. Leaflets work really well. Make sure you're putting leaflets in streets where you think there's potential for that kind of business. No wrong with that whatsoever. Local builders, local conservatory companies who would want to sell their conservatory or sell their extension. The person might be wondering how to finance this, looking at equity release as a way of financing the extension, financing the conservatory. That works really well. Holiday agents, for example. Cruises are not so popular now, are they, for obvious reasons, but people can buy holidays or holidays of a lifetime via equity release to see if you can get leads in that area as well. So I think that's a great method as well. Other things you could do a live stream like I'm doing now. So you could do a YouTube live stream, get a YouTube channel going on, or a podcast, which again is educating people on the options available in the equity release market. You could do a regular weekly live stream on YouTube, get a YouTube channel with equity release ideas, concepts, educations, get a podcast going with some of the ideas and options behind that as well. Again, if that's your cup of tea, you can certainly go there as well. So there's quite a few ideas there for you to get going. There's quite a few old school there, but some stuff that works really well. Don't forget, you're educating. You're not pitching now, you're educating people. These are your potential customers. Existing clients, of course, the client base, that's the key one. Get in with an IFA company that doesn't have equity release opportunities. There's lots of these big databases that need sort of harvesting. People giving calls or emails or Zoom calls or whatever. And make sure, of course, that you can do this online as well. Don't just rely upon face-to-face dealing with clients as well, because it is all online now, and Zoom calls and video calls. And don't forget your old-fashioned leads, wedding fairs. We just thought about that. To think logically or think laterally about how you might obtain some business. So there's some ideas for you. Bye. Ha! Yeah, that one, did you? Okay, good stuff. Good. Excellent. Okay, let's move on to a final topic for you. Let me just rub this one out for you so we can move on to our final topic. Because we had a good old trip out yesterday, which was very interesting. So let's get on to the final topic. I think you'll like this one actually quite a bit. Yeah, let's take a look at a little sales idea for you. This is one of those ideas where you just have to sort of just take a look at your sales methodology or your business idea or your strategy and how you sell, and maybe make a little tweak to it to update it for the current environment that we find ourselves in. And I'm going to call this one the garden centre trick, or the garden centre sales model. I'll tell you what I mean by this one. You might like this one. The garden centre sales model, which I think you'll like this one. Not a lot, as I used to say, but I think you'll like this one. Now, yesterday, Shelley and I decided we were going to get some plants. And we've been on lockdown for a long time here, but the garden centres have been opening up recently in nurseries and things. So we wanted to get some roses and some plants for the herbaceous border. And I said to Shelley, I'll come along with you. We'll have a bit of an outing. Now, she was very worried about it because we've been locked down now for practically 3 months, and therefore we've had most of our shopping collected from Tesco's or whatever it is. So to go to a big shopping centre with lots of other people was quite worrying for the two of us. Anyway, we arrived at this garden centre in Cheltenham, and they had got it sorted. They're a member of, I think, the Garden Centre Association or something. And obviously, this Garden Centre Association had given them advice upon how they should operate with social distancing. And it was brilliantly clever because we parked the car, walked up to the area where you enter the garden centre, and there was a queue, a bit like the supermarkets have, but obviously with taped areas of 2 metres. We thought, oh, we'll have to wait for miles, for hours. But we waited patiently as we started to go in. Obviously, people were coming out of the exit. So one person was coming out, one person was going in. And we eventually got in there, got our trolley, which was well cleaned, etc. And they had a one-way system around a garden centre, which was quite a clever idea, really. Supermarkets, you can understand that because it's aisled, isn't it? The garden centres is pretty random, but they put these stickers on the floor, though they did some painting on the floor, where you had to literally wheel your trolley, if you like, around this garden centre, around all the little nooks and crannies, all the way to the end. And you couldn't go any further than the person ahead of you. Obviously, they set the pace. So you had to wait a lot of the time and wait and relax. But it was safe, and it was a sunny day. We were outside, so it was pretty cool. Now, what happened, as you can appreciate, is that we were taken to every part of the garden centre that we would never normally go for. We were looking for roses. So normally we'd have gone straight to the rose section. But we had to go through all these different areas that we didn't really want to go to. A bit like IKEA, isn't it? And we ended up buying all sorts of plants that we would not have bought before. And we eventually got to the rose section and picked a couple of lovely roses. But as we came round through, we were stopping. We had more time to think about things that we never thought about before. We had more time to stop and look at these things. Well, actually, that might be quite nice over by this shed. Or we could put that outside the front, because it made us think about other products that they were selling. Eventually, we got to the till, paid our money. Well, we spent about 150 quid in the end, when we were only looking to spend about 25, 30 pounds on a couple of roses. So where's the moral behind that story? Well, what I'm saying to you as a mortgage advisor is think about the garden centre here and how you could organise it. And here's some ideas for you. Typically with a sales process, you have 2 or 3 meetings, don't you? You have an explore meeting, where you talk about the need and you do a bit of fact finding maybe. You then have a meeting where you present the options to the customer and they say yes or no, and they sign the forms, and then you tend to sort of submit the paperwork. It tends to be 2 meetings, which can last for an hour or so each. Sometimes an hour and a half or more. Sometimes we split it up into a couple of meetings if we're very lucky. Now here's the thought for you. Don't do it like that. Change things. First of all, go to the online model where you're using video to talk to the customer. This won't work face to face, but certainly work with video meetings. Now, video meetings require less of a duration, of course, but longer period of time. So what I'm suggesting you think about doing is you have a number of small, short 20-minute meetings covering specific areas of your process. So you might, for example, have a meeting where you're just touching base, talking about the disclosure and fees and things, and just giving a strategic view. The next meeting, you talk about some hard facts around their situation. Then the next one, you're looking at soft facts. Then maybe you're looking at protection needs then. And then you're looking at mortgage needs. And eventually, you'll get into the presentation option itself. Each meeting is lasting 15 to 20 minutes maximum. That way, you see, you get the customer's attention, just like you did in the garden centre. One that's based around protection, for example, looking at the issues about dying and being ill and stuff like that. You've got their attention, and maybe you might get some more sales as a result of that one. I think that's really quite a clever idea. You don't have to do great big meetings, you see. In fact, you shouldn't. When it's online video, you can do a meeting one day and the next evening do another one, do it for 20 minutes. People are much more inclined to do that. If they're at home anyway, there's no big deal. Their attention span is much easier for you to take in. People can get all the information more, so you actually get things across better as well by doing that. So it makes a lot of sense. And I just think this is a great way of looking at the future for you. The garden centre sales model, that was pretty good. We spent on flowers and plants and things. Very, very good at the end. And they did all the cross-selling at the end, because at the end you had all the bags of peach and stuff that you could add onto it as well. So they did very, very well, that garden centre. Clever people enjoyed that one. So I hope that's been useful for you. Bye. There you go. Right, wrap up time, I think. So that's the close of play for our live stream this week. We're coming back next week, hopefully on the Monday for you. A bit of a bank holiday blip last week, but such is life. I think we're no more bank holidays now until, well, there's plans of a new one coming out in October, maybe. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy the weather, and remember the garden centre trick as well if you want to change your sales process. Paul Archer, paularcher.com, advisorcpd.com if you want more information about what we do. Remember the boot camp starting on the, when we start on the 15th of June. We've got a new cohort starting on the 15th of June if you're interested in that. Just subscribe to the YouTube channel or contact the website archertraining.com. We've got 25 people allowed on that one. We've already got 9 or 10 already enrolled on that. So that's starting on the 15th of June. Give you a chance for extra coaching and all those good things to get through your CMAP examinations before the beginning of autumn, really. So I think that's a good one to look out for. See you soon.